All right.
We are live.
All right. Sounds good. Well, this is my first one leading, so Chanel will have to tell me if I'm doing a terrible job. She's done such a great job leading our other meetings. So the first is just the opening and approval of the agenda. Do we have to do any kind of roll call or anything like that for these?
Not for the subcommittee meeting. You are off the hook. Aren't you fortunate? And I have no changes to the agenda.
Fair enough. All right. So has everyone had a chance to review the agenda that we are approving? Or approve of what it is? I believe it's the one that's up and running right now in front of us.
Correct.
I will move approval.
Second.
All right. So moved. All right.
And I can do a roll call. Houston?
Aye. Yes.
Quinn?
Yes.
Walsh?
Actually, we're like, in the end, it doesn't feel like we're taking a
Crouch?
So there's.
Yep.
Crew.
Present.
Jobs have been total.
Perfect. That has been moved.
This is, yeah.
All right. So consideration to limit public comment to 2 minutes per individual. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Downtown Management Board is holding its meeting via the video conferencing platform Zoom in correspondence with MCL 15.2631. It is recommendation of the City Attorney's Office that all affiliated boards and commissions holding virtual meetings adopt a rule limiting public comment to 2 minutes per individual. I would move to adopt that.
Second that motion.
Okay, it has been moved by Houston and seconded by Kroom. Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Quinn?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Crouch?
Yep.
Kroom?
Yes.
All right. And I can tell you, Mr. Chairperson, that we currently do not have anyone joining us on the line, but you can certainly still formally open this up for public comment in case there's any committee members that have anything to say.
All right, I will formally open it up to public comment just in case, but as there are no people from the public joining, we can get moving relatively quickly.
Perfect.
All right. New business. So item 3.1, DMB fiscal year 21 amended budget and proposed activities. Just quickly go over that. I think staff was going to go over the treasurer's report and go over where we're feeling.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so in follow-up to 2 weeks ago, I did want to present everyone with both your fiscal year 2021 budget and then your fiscal year 2021 budget as amended per our discussion at the last formal board meeting. So I wanted to draw a couple of things, and it's good news to everyone's attention. First of all, everyone can see the screen, correct? The budget screen? Correct. Great. Okay. So I wanted to bring a couple of things to the forefront. Number one, at the end of the prior fiscal year, we had a fund balance of $2,060.23. And as you recall, when we were having lots of discussions about COVID, there was discussion about how we might need to dip into that fund balance in order to become whole again, because we had to unfortunately cancel a ton of events and activities and fundraising entities, just simply due to COVID. As that was going on, you might recall that we were in discussions with the Downtown Development Authority about supporting downtown activities that would, promote the merchant community. That did happen. And so by June 30th, we actually received a little more than $20,000 from the Downtown Development Authority. So basically that $118 was left over from the prior year plus some interest. So what this means is that as of July 1, when we started our fiscal year, if everybody's with me. So as of July 1 of 2020, we started the year with a $22,178.23 in our savings account, okay? So this is not technically allocated, right? because it was just basically in our savings account. We didn't spend down any funds. At our last board meeting, we discussed how we were going to spend those, or where we might, place those $20,000, because we knew that we had this partnership agreement with the DDA. And so at that time, the discussion was to split it. So if I can kind of draw your attention to the highlighted column, so it's the fiscal year 2021 amended column, you'll see that what I did as staff was I reappropriated the fund balance of $20,000 just to make it clean, because it was the DDA money, into the fiscal year 21 budget. And then what I did was, since we spend the majority of our funds on contract services marketing and contract services, which is basically, contracts with vendors, I divided that up by $10,000 each. So instead of having an $11,000 budget for contract services, we now have a $21,000 budget. Instead of having a $21,170 budget, we now have a $31,170 budget. Is that making sense to everybody? So essentially what happened is we went from an operating budget of $56,170 to $76,170. Then what I did was, as I scroll down, I kind of wanted to show you what I did was I took the initial recommendations of the board and essentially just added it into those criteria that I believe were likely to spend the most funds. Obviously, we know that this is unprecedented times. Things might change. Events may or may not happen depending on, really where we're at during this time of COVID. But I still kept your budget of $3,000, for example, with Green Friday and Winter Glow, your summer concert series sponsorship of $2,000, that would be next summer, your Jazz Festival sponsorship at $500, your MSU sponsorship at $600. And then what I did was I essentially just increased, so like your DMB event support, which is very general, which can go to lots of different things. I amended that up to $14,000. I kept your wayfinding visitors guides at $3,000, and then I increased your promotions and campaigns to $8,070. So that's kind of where you see this offset. So that's where your 31.7 is. Then under your contract services, I kept your holiday decorations at $9,000. I know we've had a lot of discussion about, expanding that. So I kept that at the $9,000, which would include the cross streets this year. And then really I did a great deal of just increasing from, musician contracts, artist contracts, just people we enter into agreements with from $2,000 to $12,000. So this is your amended budget. Obviously, I tried to have it fall into the criteria and discussion of what we had initially pitched to the Downtown Development Authority as well. So, for example, as we've done some temporary artist installations. We've launched the, Stay Safe to Stay Open campaign. So all of that would still continue to kind of fall under this criteria. Big picture, what this means is, right, we're in really good shape. Obviously, we've only had one full month. We're in the month of August, but, really to date, you have only spent $3,663.08. So we have, quite a bit of funds to, be able to tap into. I recognize we're not, a multi-million-dollar budget, but, in comparison to our total fund balance, we're in good shape right now. In terms of outstanding things, really what we have pending right now are just finalization of some printing expenses that we had with the Together We Will Stay Safe to Stay Open campaign, and then final payments to both our chalk artist and the paint installation that occurred in Valley Court Park. So, you're really only looking at an additional $3,000 or so in pending. So we're really on track. We're with the budget. The reason I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention is, Adam Cummins has joined us. He's here to discuss kind of continued partnerships with the DDA, but I wanted to really give you a comprehensive picture of where we stand to date. Another thing to kind of bear in mind with everyone is events, as I mentioned. So, obviously, I think that we're going to, at business relations level, and I certainly welcome it at this marketing committee level, a lot of things are still up in the air. For example, last year we really elevated and did a lot more with our Great Pumpkin Walk event. That's originally scheduled for October 25th. Will that happen? I just don't know. Perhaps we discuss having that as more of a virtual event, or, maybe we have different evenings where the children trick or treat to kind of maintain that social distancing. But I think I'm bringing this to everyone's attention because, we had originally, for example, budgeted $3,000 towards that. Do we really think that that's really an expenditure we're going to see? Or, should those funds perhaps be thought of and spent elsewhere in different types of activities? When you kind of look at this and you can see kind of the activities we've done in July, what we've been working on in August, when September, comes around the corner here, is there really going to be an MSU homecoming parade? Maybe, maybe not. I can tell you that the Chamber of Commerce, they had originally been wanting to do a grub crawl downtown. They still want to do that. It is just looking like it will probably be more virtual, but in the sense of like people purchase all their tickets and stuff virtually, but then perhaps they go downtown and over a week's time encourage people to patronize the downtown in either the end of September, beginning of August. So maybe they pick a whole week and it's kind of a push for downtown East Lansing. We can certainly go into more detail about this, but I really just wanted to share with everybody kind of where we are to date with the budget and, frankly, to kind of share that we are in good shape. So I know that at the, last board meeting, there was discussion about kind of holding off, kind of waiting to see where we might be in a couple weeks. And so I really just wanted to present this comprehensive view. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have related to this. And if there are none, then I'm happy to kind of chat a little bit more with you with Adam. So that's kind of really what I wanted to share with now. Are there any questions for me so far? Does that kind of make sense? Okay. All right. Well, then I guess that's a segue. I know that you've all kind of met Adam a couple of times, but I really wanted to circle back to our last board meeting. I know that there was discussion about, perhaps not spending quite as much funds the DDA had allocated. To date, we've spent just under $5,000. So $20,000 was provided, between the pending expenditures that I mentioned, and then, what we have spent to date, we spent just under that $5,000. So we still have $15,000 that were really meant, from my staff understanding, to be spent to, market and promote and educate, people so that they feel comfortable coming downtown. And what do we know? Well, I know that on September 2nd, MSU students are going to start again. We know that some of them will take classes virtually. We are estimating right now at the city level that approximately 26,000 students are going to return to East Lansing. We are estimating that 17,000 of them are going to live off campus in East Lansing, and 9,000 of them are going to live on campus. So I just wanted to share that, we really are still expecting an influx. If you have not been downtown or in the neighborhoods in the last couple of days, I can speak to this personally. It's starting to increase. We're starting to see a lot more people move in, a lot more U-Hauls, especially for those people that are residing off campus. The student population is starting to come back. So I think that, in my mind, as much as we can to kind of educate everyone of all ages, but continue to educate and promote and support, our residents that are here and the new people that are coming in is pretty imperative. So as a kind of brief recap, we told the DDA originally we were going to do. We had told the DDA that we were going to work on some like temporary, live installations, perhaps art installations. We had said to them that we were going to work on a campaign, which we have achieved. With Together We Will Stay Safe to Stay Open. We have, been offering the use of the right-of-way to businesses, which has saved them a great deal of money, so that they can continue to put things out. I know there's been not a ton of takers, but there have certainly been, that's an option for them to hopefully expand their opportunities. And then, we've just kind of had some general miscellaneous charges. We have not yet discussed any sort of welcome back activities. Perhaps that's something we could talk about now. But that's really kind of where we are to date. And with that, I think I'm going to kind of hand it over to Adam, and welcome Adam, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks Amy. Hey everybody. So as Amy indicated, the DDA, they allocated that $20,000, for these line items laid out here. Originally I believe we had a little more allocated for special events downtown, but with the cancellation of those events over the summer, we went back to the DDA and asked, can we shift those funds from that to this? And so we received approval from the DDA to expend the funds as it's outlined here in the memo. But then, August 4th, at the special board meeting, the DMB special board meeting, there was a little hesitation to continue to move forward. And so we left with the understanding that, we're on hold for now, just a temporary freeze. And so I wanted to talk to everyone to kind of address that. Number one, to get an understanding what the concerns are Number two, to see if we can resolve this in some way, shape, or form. Where we definitely need to expend these funds for these purposes at this point. Our whole strategy here is stay safe to stay open. And so the strategies that we're creating and developing and implementing are geared around public safety. What can we do to not only make people feel safe, but actually be safer to get them to come downtown? And so these are a few of those strategies. And so with that said, I just wanted to open it up for discussion and get your input, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for joining, and thanks for that kind of synopsis. I mean, looking at kind of the approved pieces, and from what I can recall from the meeting, I do think there was some hesitation to make a decision on how to spend money without really knowing the impact it would have positively on the merchants. Just knowing that, when we spend this money, we have kind of a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we believe it is in the best interest of the downtown businesses, that it's going to somehow bring more business downtown, while also then being in the current environment, a safe option or safe opportunity. So if we were to invest in a downtown event, for instance, that brought a lot of people downtown, and then we had negative publicity, probably would not be good. So I think we're trying to be cautious around what we put money into, knowing like, is it going to really benefit the merchants? And we've gotten a little bit of pushback in the past from merchants that have just not been comfortable with maybe the impact that our dollars go or where we spend it. They're like, well, I didn't feel that positive impact. And so I think that might be some of the hesitations, but I do think that, you're not wrong that we do need to look at where we spend it and get it moving so that it's not just sitting and that there's some impact on it. So are these 5 options, these approved activities, those are the things you're looking for us to kind of support and get behind, right? And then, either approve or. Okay.
Correct. And yeah. Yep.
I mean, to be frank, these were the things that we had asked the DDA for initially back in June. Mm-hmm. And then we edited them a bit to tweak it, because what happened was we'd initially said live entertainment. We were going to do like basically a Nights in Downtown East Lansing event.
Right.
COVID had not yet subsided. So the city manager essentially said to all staff and to citywide, no events in the downtown. Like it's, we don't feel like it's safe at this time after consulting with the County Health Department. So at this point, the DDA, is really expecting us to deliver on these items or something very similar. I mean, to be frank, I think sooner rather than later. I know that at the last meeting we had kind of discussed, well, we have the money for the fiscal year, but I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think that the expectation is that we try to, do things that are productive, that are educational. I know that we can't please everyone, and I respect that, but that we can spend these funds and then maybe go back to the DDA and have other partnership opportunities. But I think we need to kind of be good stewards and spend these funds first, obviously, before we partner with them. So
yeah, correct, Amy. And so that the funds here they were frozen probably a week after we launched the marketing campaign, and so we haven't really been able to execute that fully up to this point. And as far as benefiting the merchants, at this point, it's definitely going to be very difficult to demonstrate, with data like this. We did A and the outcome was B, you know what I mean? But
right.
At the same time, I mean, if you look what's happening, whatever your thoughts are on COVID or not, their consumption behaviors have changed. Right? People are scared. And so we're implementing measures not only to make them safer, but to feel safer, and then advertise that, promote it, market it. If you read a lot of the research coming out, that's the shift in consumer behavior right now. Yeah, they want to know what people are doing to keep them safe. So, a lot of these strategies were developed around that.
So Amy, you were saying that these 5 are the original budgeted items we went to the DDA with, and then it was altered at the last DDA meeting to allow us flexibility away from these items?
originally in June, when we made the original, so we met as the downtown management board.
Yeah.
You said to me as staff, go to the DDA, please go forth and request money. The only real difference here, if you'll remember, are items 1 and 2. Item 1 was supposed to be more live entertainment, sort of ambiance music, but live entertainment. Item 2, instead of it being Together We Will, it was at that point thought about like partnerships with public relations firms. So it's similar, but I think instead of it being necessarily like a strong partnership with MSU, it was more a discussion of like with Piper and Gold. Then we all kind of reconvened and we went back to the DDA and said, okay, you know, these live events are not able to happen because of COVID right now. And the DDA said, sure, this is fine. You know, if you guys want to do temporary art installations, that's fine. And we absolutely support, you know, the MSU campaign that you've been doing. So very similar. I mean, I think that they're all in the same wheelhouse, right? Public relations, whether it's with MSU or public relations, whether it's with Piper and Gold. Now, certainly there can be more focuses. And, you know, as I mentioned before, you know, we still have $15,000. So we still have a significant amount of money if we want to, for example, go back to Piper and Gold now and say, look, you know, we've launched this campaign, for example, with MSU, and this is great, but we would like to focus more on whatever that is that you guys feel would be, you know, important or beneficial. Is that, you know, a specific, you know, social campaign? Maybe it's not social, maybe it's some television, maybe it's some radio. I think that those are all, my impression of the DDA at the last meeting was that they approved these activities, but they were flexible. And then I think it was their prerogative and priority that we spend the money. Adam, would you agree with that analysis?
Yeah, 100%, Amy. And spend the money in the way that they approved with that flexibility to kind of shift around from bucket to bucket without having to go back each time if we go over or under and ask for that approval.
Right. So for example, if you guys said, you know what, we don't feel like perhaps an outdoor event for welcome back activities is appropriate right now for students, but you, I don't know, wanted to do some sort of, you know, virtual fair or some kind of, you know, week event where people could kind of, you know, hop from place to place, but practice social distancing. My impression of DDA is that they'll be very willing and eager to kind of go down that road, that similar things, anything that really breeds education and promotion of the downtown and these safe practices that we've been implementing are kind of A-okay with that, is what I have observed.
And, you know, I understand this is different from what we typically would do, right? But, you know, we're in much different times. And so our approach, our strategies got to be different during these times. And that's all we're looking to do is, you know, execute the items on this list that were approved to be executed by the DDA. So does anyone else have any more questions?
Well, my question would be, you know, I feel like the DDA was pretty flexible, so I concur in that, and that we would find support with whatever the brain trust and whatever the will of this committee is to do something for the merchants and for the city that helps businesses in some way. And you know, I'd heard comments at some meeting somewhere that were questioning, you know, well, should it really be spent on art at this time? Is there some more beneficial thing to spend it on? And, you know, I really don't, I mean, I need merchant input to understand, is the goal seems to be to bring people downtown, and when they come, to keep them safe. So kind of two prongs. And then I questioned, you know, why would it be the downtown management board's obligation to, you know, for instance, pay for masks or to, you know, because the city council has now mandated that masks be worn in the DDA district. And if they're going to mandate that, why don't they spend money on it rather than the businesses who contribute to our fund? Or at least it should be in parity somehow or some kind of formula. So number one, you know, and that's kind of the keeping people safe aspect and the educational aspect. I get that. I don't, you know, keeping people safe and having a sound environment could bring people downtown, just like you need public safety downtown. and sort of the walking around, you know, pre-COVID type thing where people need to feel safe. I think now they need to feel safe in sort of the healthcare sort of viewpoint. So maybe there is something we can do, but I'd be more supportive of trying, or not more supportive, but supportive of something that this committee or the DMB viewed as how do we get people downtown? I don't know if it's art. Maybe that's one of the only things we can do. Hey, we're having this art thing, come and stare down at a sidewalk. And, you know, I don't know that that's going to promote business in any way, but I'm just trying to rack my brains. And I've looked at what other cities are doing and they're kind of treading water too. And I don't know if we just keep our powder dry for a bit. I mean, maybe we do. Maybe this is an opportunity to spend more on lights, because lights are Christmas lights, holiday lights are kind of a passive thing, and people can come down and look at those and walk around. And we have expressed, the whole board's expressed the desire in the past to have, you know, more money go into the lights. I don't know if we can carve out more for that. That's kind of the only thing I can think of. We can't have live performances. That's not going to work. So my question to others is, how do we get people downtown? What would be the best expenditure?
Well, I guess, yeah, that's an argument I'm trying to make. You get people downtown by providing a safe environment there in this time. I mean, any research that you do on consumer behaviors, human behaviors, economic recovery strategies, is public safety. So that's why these were identified. But if you have other alternatives, definitely would like to hear them.
I agree with what Jim was saying, and I do agree with what Adam's saying about keeping people safe and encouraging people to come downtown. However, we did learn briefly that students tend to feel safer than regular populations. So in doing so, that's the reason I was trying to see what I said in our last meeting, what may happen when the students come back, because we have such a dynamically different population in June than we do in September, and their buying patterns are different. Every pattern is different. So that's kind of why I had said to wait 1 month, because spending a whole lot of money in ways that may not be effective to bring that because by the time anything we decide to do would go in place would be when the students are back. And that is how a lot of our businesses in downtown East Lansing survive, isn't through the adult population, which we're always trying to increase and grow. But a lot of businesses survive because we have students here. So that's just, I think that's still an important distinction, is like, how much encouragement are they going to need to go in public? I don't know. I learned that not that much in my experience, but
yeah, I would agree with that, Chanel. But so you don't need to encourage the students to come down, but what you do need them to do is practice those safe behaviors.
Totally agree.
And that's what this marketing campaign is all about.
I agree. And where I was going next with is I don't want to sound like I'm not in agreement with advertising for safe practices, things like that. It's just also hard when you're we have a fiduciary, like Justin said, a fiduciary responsibility to the businesses, that our job isn't solely to educate, that we're also here to support businesses that may be on the verge of going out of business. I haven't been in downtown recently because I've been out of town for a little bit. But I would assume that there are many businesses that are probably pretty thin at this point. And it's just it's really tough to I don't want to feel like we put all of our eggs in one basket, and that's, I don't know. It's such a difficult thing. Like what Jim said, like with the mask mandate, like having us pay for that isn't, I guess what I'm more or less saying is, are we the right funding source for things like that? So I have no problem with participating in education and making sure people feel safe and advertising safe practices and telling people that we expect them to act safely when they do come downtown. But I also think we need to also focus on trying to figure out a way that we can get people in the businesses that need people in them to survive. Because that's really, we take the money from the businesses through their taxes for that purpose, to help them. It's, it just doesn't, for me, I think we have to keep that in mind. And if there's other education things that need to be done, I don't know if we are necessarily the right place to do solely education. I don't know.
So
Makes sense.
taking what you're saying, Chanel, what education, I mean, maybe I don't know if we switch it to marketing. I mean, there's an education component to marketing. Do we somehow trumpet what city council said and say, like with some campaign that says, East Lansing, one of the safest communities in the state, our businesses support our council. We want all of you potential customers to know that we have a mask requirement and there are ambassadors down here, and that this downtown area and the city support safe practices. So does that do it? Safe practices. And that we have limited numbers of folks in allowed in businesses, so that you'll be safe when you go in, and all the businesses are practicing certain things. I mean, is that the kind of thing that we market off of? Does that help a business? I don't know. I'm asking.
I mean, I think that's the only way that I can see a marketing arm, like us, to really participate in many of these things, is to really just market that the downtown is open, how it's open, how to engage with the businesses in a safe way. And I think that you're right, that there's got to be a way that we can accommodate, both the communication about, the safety aspects, while also pivoting to, not just coming downtown, but to shop downtown, which is really our key. So I don't disagree that it's about getting people to come down safely. I think Chanel's right. I think you're going to see students come downtown and shop regardless when they get here. They're not going to necessarily love wearing a mask. They're not going to care about that. They don't care about safety, it appears, most of the time. So I think realistically, what we need to focus on there is educating. If you are going to come downtown and shop, we're open for business, and here's how you engage with us, right? And here's what we're doing to keep you safe. Because I agree that they're going to come down anyway. But I think that's part of what you're getting at with some of these items, is to educate them on that we're down to business. We're back to business, and here's the way to do it. The number on the art installation, I mean, I think that it just depends. You'd have to be downtown to view the art installation, so you're already coming downtown, and that's the majority of bulk of that funding going to that. So that's maybe part of the shock of like seeing that as a number one campaign, but it's not necessarily one that's getting the most reach. So we'd probably need to somewhere in there also market that out. And I don't know that anywhere in that $8,000 it says we would be, social media marketing. I mean, what is the campaign to get people to see it? I don't think people are going to come downtown to see, that type of art installation. It's going to be the thing you walk by and you say, that's pretty cool, but you're already gonna be downtown at that point. So again, maybe it's just allocating the funds in a way that makes the most sense, that is realistically going to make the most money for the businesses, right? That they're going to be able to see some kind of benefit from what we're doing. And I know you can't see a direct correlation. We've talked about that a lot in the past, but I think that they're still going to see that we're spending money, we're having initiatives. The initiative should talk about coming downtown to shop, and here's maybe how you do it. So I think we incorporate the messaging in there. The art installation seems to be the hang up, I think, with most of the board, because we're just not sure how it's going to attract new people downtown. And we don't know, that that's really the marketing arm job. Normally it would be part of our job to like create a space downtown that is inviting. But I think you're right that now the point is to reach out to people who aren't coming downtown and say, come downtown and here's how to do it safely. And I think we can do that with a few of the other items on the list. So I don't know if we have to approve all 5 or whether or not we can just discuss the ones that we're more comfortable with. I think I'm comfortable with number 2. I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks on that, but number 2 seems to be pretty reasonable investment in, preparing toolkits for businesses that are able to then distribute out with a singular message, which I think we need, right? Unified message on how to come downtown. And it does lump us with MSU in a way. So that's a good tie to the students. So, I mean, I don't see a problem with number 2. Committee, does anybody have like a big problem with number 2?
Isn't that already kind of taking place?
Yep. It was
Yes.
executed maybe a week prior to the funds being frozen.
Yeah, that's-
And there's still a lot of execution to do.
Right. You're waiting for I'm just saying, like, it's been executed. You're waiting for us to say, release the funds again so that you can keep moving
So
forward.
so we can post on social media, so we can hire the people we want to hire to go into the businesses and promote the Stay Safe to Stay Open campaign and do all the things you guys are discussing.
So I don't see an issue with number 2 and maintain and continuing to do that. I think that's a good campaign. I don't see a huge issue with that. The authorized use, the right of way.
Has anybody taken advantage of that?
So I know of 3 businesses that have taken advantage of it. And I think, to be frank, if businesses, I think this is a clear case where, like, if businesses aren't really biting on that, then let's just take the remaining fund balance, because I think we've only spent about $240 and, put it somewhere else. That's my recommendation to you guys. Whether it's we lump that more into, the Stay Safe to Stay Open campaign, or you guys say, hey, we really want to try this when students get back. Let's try this welcome back feeling event or activity. Or maybe it's not even that. It's let's do a consistent campaign with this, through Christmas or whatever you guys might want to do.
Well,
Yeah.
businesses are already authorized to put stuff on the sidewalks, right? Either to feed people or to market their wares out there if they choose. So as a
Through August
council,
28th, yes.
so they've opened that up. So when the students come back, the sidewalks, I don't know if businesses will rock the sidewalks, but it's safer to shop outdoors. And so I think businesses may have to migrate in that direction. I don't know that. I mean, we have a small line item for that. I don't know why businesses can't afford their own tables and so on, but yeah, it seems like we're already doing that. I don't know if, I don't know, do we spend money on, everyone seems to dislike Piper and Gold, or companies like that and view it as sometimes a waste of money, but do we, I mean, we're trying to act like a marketing company right here at this meeting, and I guess that's our job on the committee, but do we need professional help to do this? I mean, would that be beneficial in some way to garner all these ideas that we've been talking about, and we just put it out online, or what's the best avenue? Someone's got to create this strategy, and then we need to execute it and figure out what channels we're going to push it out through, and all that costs money.
And I know $1,500 probably doesn't go far with Piper and Gold, but to me, having them put something together as far as here's how downtown businesses have shifted their business for you to come down and take advantage of it would make more sense than here's a table. Does anybody want to come have a table and put a table outside?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think the table came directly from, I was contacted by members of DDA wanting to do that type of a program. So
And I
that's,
think when the outside seating area was out there and it was, nice outside and it was summer, it maybe went hand in hand with that. But at this point, I mean, nobody's taking advantage of it. It's just going to it's harder and harder as the season gets, as fall comes around to put your wares and stuff outside and lug it in and out and back and forth and everything. So that third ticket there doesn't really excite me personally.
And I mean, I always say this jokingly and sincerely at the time with you guys, I work for you guys. So, I mean, I have absolutely no problem. I'd reached out to Piper and Gold before COVID hit. And so they were prepared to kind of work with us on a campaign. So, I mean, I know that here's the good news. I mean, I think the good news is that the Together We Will campaign is identifiable. People have seen it. It's got a lot of positive press coverage. It's consistent. We've got signage out there, not only like Harrison, but at the clock tower, it's gotten a lot of good press, which I think is good. I think that
Well, and it is run by, if it's in conjunction with MSU, I'm assuming that they're providing resources to back that up within their,
Yes.
their development and theirs. I mean, like, we use Piper and Gold on our normal pieces because we don't have
Yes.
access to maybe the same level
correct.
as a larger company would. They have that access. They're providing their access to have a joint campaign. I don't see why we would put our
Right.
money on this particular issue for the Together We Will Stay Safe. And I think that makes sense to stick with MSU's campaign, be united in that as an East Lansing piece. I think maybe what the committee's talking about is maybe with our money and what we spend to try and, move forward as the downtown management board. I think the concern is that maybe we don't know how to navigate this the best and where to put the money, and then how to
Sure.
engage with our, consumers. And so I think that's where we're struggling to know whether or not $8,000 on temporary art installations is really where we would see the fiduciary benefit downtown.
Sure.
However cool they might be, that's where we just don't know how to utilize that. Because if we put them up, they're temporary, but we didn't utilize the time to then post it on social media. Again, it just doesn't clarify there. So like normally we just like to know exactly what we're putting out there. So if we authorize the spending of it and then later on we find that it was, very temporary and it didn't get a lot of impact, or we don't know the impact, then we still have to answer for that later. And in our own minds feel that we did something that benefited. And so we typically just want to, I think, know that. And so with number 2,
Sure.
I think we can see and we can engage, we can give some deliverable to the businesses that says, here's what we're doing. So again, I don't really see why we would
Sure.
go away from utilizing that joint campaign. The right-of-way funds, I think we could reallocate that to that campaign if that would make sense. If there's more that we could do there, more toolkit to purchase. I don't really, and maybe it's the smallest, it's got a very brief line there on the welcome back activities, mini fair, live entertainment, promotional activities to encourage students, budget $5,000. We're unsure where that is. When we authorize this, I guess I'm just struggling to know whether or not we have then, are we planning any of those events? Is that just we give them, we say, here's $5,000 and then we see if events happen? How does that happen? Are we just reallocating money back to another group to decision, which is,
Sure.
kind of my question there.
I think the original intent was when we had accepted the money, when the money came in at the end of June, beginning of July, the original intent was that we, the DMB, would try to plan something. However, I also think that given the state that we're at with COVID, perhaps that's, in my opinion, perhaps that's not the best allocation of these funds at this time. So I would recommend, I think what I'm hearing from the majority of the committee members is that we maybe reallocate that now and say, you know what, let's work up a different, a second PR campaign, or let's spend the $5,000 on social media, Instagram, Facebook, those kind of ads, just drawing people downtown. Certainly my personal opinion, but that's where I would be inclined
Yeah.
to
So
and just
yeah,
promote that.
yeah, Amy. So the number 2, stay safe to stay open. That's kind of a passive thing. As we said, the students are going to come downtown. So that's okay when they come downtown and then they see that campaign, even though it's passive and it hasn't drawn them in, it may bring them back, or it may have some educational value. But I agree, the question for me is, how do we get the students downtown, and how do we get the non-students to come downtown? And that, I think, is going to require some marketing expertise. Again, which channels do we put it out through?
Right.
What are those costs? And then what does it consist of? Is it consists of, we are open. It consists of, and we're safe. We have this mandatory mask requirement. So, non-students, you can feel comfortable coming downtown because it is a mask wearing environment, and on and on. What do we do in that regard? And then I still like keeping some of the powder dry and buying some lights
For Christmas, yeah.
I always support that, Jim. I'm with you on lights always, anytime lights.
She does love it. Well, and let me give you an example. So in my other hat, so I'm the main census liaison for the city, and let me just give you an example. So when COVID hit, we were fortunate to get a Michigan Municipal League grant, which was great. And what we used portion of that grant for was what they're called traffic social media ads. I don't know how familiar you guys are with this, but essentially what it did was it was measurable in the sense that we sent information out to 18 plus, 18 to 24-year-olds that had an affiliation with Michigan State University. And then we were able to click and physically see the amount of people that went from our ad and then clicked onto the census form link. So that was measurable for us. maybe it is something like that where we work with Piper and Gold or, someone else of your choosing. We get some quotes and we say to them, our measurable, what we want are some measurables in addition to some general goodwill. And so, let's try to drive traffic to whatever you guys think is going to be the best with the businesses. Do we really care how many clicks downtown East Lansing has? Certainly not compared to like how many people, we want to get down here, but and we certainly have SurveyMonkey. We've utilized that a lot of times. I know we usually get about, the same people responding, but, maybe that's beneficial. Maybe we ask the businesses, let's pick $10,000. We have $10,000 here. We're planning on these initiatives. Please rank your, top 3 to 5 picks or something of that nature. I'm just spitballing with you guys, but I think that anything that, that kind of continues to promote this business support, DDA is going to be okay with.
So are
Yeah,
we saying, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I really think that the key is to do exactly that. It's to find some way forward. I just don't know. We've always relied, and I think it's not wrong to rely on some kind of support expertise to kind of drive the communication, create the proper, I don't think it's going to be good to have some kind of communication going out there, using the words like mandatory and things like, right. That's not, but I think that if we have someone creative to assist us with the messaging, that's what we should be spending our money on, is some kind of messaging that brings people downtown, but gets across the right information, right? The good information that we need to. And I think that's, particularly what MSU is able to do that we've tied into. I think that's the right thing to do, is invest more and continue to have that, streamlined messaging. But I think we need to have our own form of messaging that drives home the shopping downtown experience, whether or not that shopping experience is also then online, right? Order your food, right? Like, we need to be able to pivot that. And I don't know that, I'm going to say committee or board can invest the time just themselves to develop an entire campaign on how to shop online or come downtown, right? So I really think that that's why we're looking to say, who will we engage? And when we say yes to $5,000 or $7,000 or something, we don't know who's executing that. We know staff doesn't have the time to build that campaign. And so we don't know who we'd be giving $8,000 to create a campaign and create impact, or $5,000 to create a campaign and create impact. That's why we're looking for who are we paying and what are they delivering to us, that we can then say, yes, we feel like that is the right move, right marketing for the downtown, and that they're going to provide us with some kind of form. So that's where I guess I'm a little gun shy on just saying, like, yes, what I do approve is spending the money. And I think that, polling the businesses will take too long. It won't deliver us what we're really looking for, right? They're not sure what they need or what they want right now either. For the most part, they all have different needs, different wants. So I don't know that polling them is going to deliver us an answer. I think what we need to do is work with someone who understands the current environment to a better degree in marketing aspects, and figure out a way to market what we want to have happen, which is to bring people downtown, get a safe environment communicated to our, consumers. I think that, MSU is working well to communicate to the students on how to do this, but we need to communicate to a broader audience as well, and have our own messaging. And so that's kind of where I think we're standing on that. I think if we reallocate a few of these items into some of those, that's probably what we're looking for. I would probably engage Piper and Gold just because they're the ones that most recently have worked with us. So they have a better idea of where we've been. They've led our strategic initiative meetings. They're not cheap. And I don't know maybe what you guys are talking about with, people don't like them, but I know that there's been up and down about their deliverables, but they've reliably at least been our company. So if we switch now, it's just going to take more proposals. We're going to have low cost options that are going to have less deliverables, but I don't see why we don't ask for some kind of quick messaging on how to stay on top of this. That would remain somewhat consistent with what we've had in the past year or so.
Yeah, I think that's awesomely stated, Mr. Chairperson, because I'm in favor of the marketing campaign and doing it professionally and intelligently and having someone help us with it. And then your second point, I agree with. We can't get into the RFP route now. Again, we already have the necessary approvals for Piper and Gold, so we pretty much should stick with them. I mean, I got no dog in that fight, but we don't want to wait a month while we get RFPs and noodle them around. And then
we'll have to go if there are any changes to way that this list, how we can spend funds, we will have to go back to the DDA for approval.
So
Yeah,
That's
I-
fine. That's
I
a quick
agree.
thing. They're going to be supportive. That's a pretty quick thing. So we got no problem doing that. And then maybe we do something. I mean, is parking still an issue? We're at 15 minutes free now. Is that where we're at? And part of the marketing campaign is going to be you can slide down and get your carryout food and you don't have to pay for it. But it seems like the Downtown Management Board should be constantly pressuring council to ease the parking situation, whether it's prudent for city budget or not. Our position should be we want parking easy down here.
Yeah, I can speak
Uh,
through.
I-
My understanding is that the 15 minutes is going back into place. So it's the original parking layout. Again.
I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made. I think we should probably, going back to Piper and Gold is a good idea. I certainly would like to increase the amount of time we could have for parking from 15 minutes. My customers usually can't figure out what book to pick out in 15 minutes. Half an hour at least gives them some choice. And so anything we can do to increase parking would be certainly an asset, I think, to most businesses in downtown that allows people to go more than just one business. So, but otherwise, I think I agree along with Justin and as to the ideas of giving the marketing to people who are already familiar with us.
And thanks, Ray. So
Okay.
I want to make sure that I don't want to, have too much time be belating the same items, but I mean, this seems to be our last item, meaning like it's the last one we were going to discuss, and realistically, it's probably the most important, but I also want to make sure we have a final say in what we want to move forward with doing, because I think it was put to us to kind of make the next steps. So again, I think I'm understanding that we probably need a clear idea of what to take back to DDA, what DDA is going to have to decision on so that they know what we're in agreement on. For that, I think we've pretty much decided item number 2 was fine. There's no changes recommended there. Are we allocating any additional funds from any of the items there to say like, hey, you've already approved this activity. All you got to do is slide this number over. Is that what we want to do with number 3, is just slide it into that campaign? Or do we feel like we will want to do more with Piper and Gold and recommend that we want to utilize more funds towards a concerted, and Piper and Gold may actually enjoy the art installations piece. I'm stuck on the budget number. It's a lot of money for art at this time. So I struggle with that right now. I still do, but if there were a smaller number that we were able to kind of go forward with it, I'm not opposed to beautifying the downtowns when people are there. It's, not stark. But it's the largest budget item there, and it doesn't drive people downtown. So again, it's not a marketing piece.
It is a primary strategy to attract people, to create those vibrant, attractive places. And the purpose behind that was to continue the progress made in those art installations downtown, but in a way that people can socially distance and get a little education.
Gotcha. Is part of that $8,000 then the communication of that art installation to the consumers that are not coming downtown so that they know like there's something going on? Or is it really just like for people who did come downtown, they get to see something cool to beautify it?
We've been promoting it. That's a good question. I mean, we've been promoting on our different social media channels. It's actually been a huge hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we know it's been a hit?
The feedback that we're getting, the amount of likes and shares and pictures posted with the art installations, it's been really well received.
So can we, I guess maybe there's a smaller ask that we can give there. So maybe if there's a number with that, I mean, if we do the whole budget of 8,000, how long does that go for, right? So how long does that our installations go for if we do 8,000? Is it less if we do 2,000? Does that cover us for the next month? Maybe to get Piper and Gold researching to say, hey, they can look at those numbers and say, yeah, that's a lot of likes and shares. You should really continue doing that. Then we approve for additional 4,000, 5,000, whatever for that project versus approving for 8,000 today. for a 10, you know, I don't know how many months that's supposed to be going for 8,000. Is that 4 weeks of art installations? Is that 3 weeks? Is that 10 weeks? I don't know. So is there a
Well,
number?
that's already been spent down to 5. So we're at 5,000.
Okay, so we have 5,000 left, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So if we think about that, if it's been spent down to 5, started at 8, so, you know, it seems like, could we approve a lesser amount, I'm just saying there, and then get started on the next wave of those, keep communicating them out, and then, you know, kind of see whether or not that's really where we want to allocate. I feel like if we budget it now, are we stuck to that? Are we able to reallocate it later if we determine, or how does that work? Is it out of our authority at that point?
I thought we had other money that's available. We could start on the marketing budget now
Well,
and get that underway. And then if we like what we see, we just go back to DDA and say, we want to do more of this and less
Okay.
of some of the other stuff. Maybe that's a way.
And that's the other point, Amy, I think I understood that you saying, like, if we spend it and we spend the $8,000, but yet we identify more things we want to do for marketing outside of that, we'll just go back to DDA and they're going to be like, sure, here's more money. Is that
I mean, I can't promise they're going to be like, sure, there's money,
Right.
but I think that they're receptive to any ideas. I mean, they always have been, you know, especially in the last year and a half, 2 years, they've been really receptive. And I think to Jim's point, you know, again, and this is why I really wanted to bring the budget front and center, you know, you not only have the DDA's money, you have your own money. So, I mean, again, you know, if we're talking about, you know, some events not happening in the same capacity as they were before, you know, I think that the point is we're right at the beginning of our fiscal year again. So if we even, let's say we, you know, we spend the DDA money or we send it a particular way, you know, we still have, like, let's say $5,000 of our own money that, you know, we can continue to work through. You know, I can tell you this, and I don't know if it's changed as COVID was going on. I asked Piper and Gold, what is your minimum per project? And they said $3,000. So $3,000 is basically their admin, right? For like project development, like that kind of stuff. So that's sort of their minimum. I can certainly, you know, continue to work with them and get other quotes, but I think probably what we should assume is like development of a campaign, right? Let's say that's $3,000 or $4,000. And then let's say we want to spend another $1,000 implementing it, whatever it is, right? Is that printing costs? Is that ads? Is that social media? What is that? So,
That seems like a good spend. If it's $3,000, that,
you know,
it seems like in the wheelhouse of what we've been talking about. Let's hear their ideas.
All right, I'm assuming committee can't actually approve the full, you know, yes, move forward with all activities. So
correct, you cannot. We can always, you know, convene a special meeting though.
Yeah.
And, you know, we will have the September meeting as well. So I think what I'm hearing is, you know, the majority of committee members and board members are comfortable if we continue on with the, you know, together we will stay safe to stay open. We would like to maybe pause a little bit on the art installation, or at least spend a little less than it originally indicated, because the $8,000 is a big chunk of the pie. And then are pretty open-minded to reallocation of the other items. Is that a fair synopsis of what's going on?
I think so. I mean, I think I'm hearing Adam correctly, and I think Adam, I really appreciate you being on the call and kind of working us through a few of these items, because it helps me have perspective. You know, the art installations, if we market them correctly, as, you know, what they are, and use them as communication of a safe space downtown, a fun space downtown, I can see how that would be beneficial. I don't know if, you know, because it's been mentioned a few times, the freeze on funding. I mean, if we're okay with spending less, I think, you know, what my concern would be is that we spend $8,000, we go back because we want more funds later. We don't know what this is going to look like and what we're going to need to do to market, but I'm assuming that this is going to be a longer term issue than, you know, a shorter term one. So if we're here through year end, we're looking at holiday and how do you get people downtown for holiday shopping, right? Which is another big time of year for our merchants, without expending a lot on marketing, right? And if we're blowing it on, you know, right now, when we have students guaranteed coming downtown, they're going to be gone on holidays. They're not spending it here. They spend it on Amazon. They're doing whatever. So again, we're going to rely on our local people to go downtown to shop. We're going to need money then too. So I just don't want to say like, yes, we're spending it all now, and then later on when we need more, they're like, well, you spent it all on the art installations, and now you don't have any holiday funding, which I agree. Everyone's talked about the lights. That's another time of year where we're going to need something. So I don't want to front end all of our expenditures today on communication of art installations and things like that. If later on we're going to be stuck with a lower budget when maybe we want it, or how to reopen next summer if this is still going on. How do we communicate again coming downtown if we won't have a renewed budget? So I just feel like that's something that we want to kind of try and keep track of, is not to overspend if then we're not guaranteed those funds coming back from DDA for additional spending. That's why we're apprehensive. We want to make sure that we're utilizing these funds for the long term, if we don't have extra, we can't bet on the future. So I don't mind continuing to do the art installations and maybe up the, release the freeze for, to be, and then start on a plan of how we actually want to market the downtown again with a professional guidance, such as Piper Gold. And that's kind of my goal, is to say, who's going to professionally guide us through this? And, we're spending $8,000 on art installations. $8,000 could probably get us a lot of marketing expertise from Piper and Gold that could actually drive measurable results to businesses, right? And that's my only real pivot there.
Yeah, I agree, Justin, and thank you for that. And the art installations, maybe it's not the best use of funds. We're just creating those strategies, and that's just one of those strategies that got lumped into this overall request. And just I've been sitting back and listening to everyone. Everyone has very valid concerns, great ideas, and just the top of my head, the only thing I can think of in response to that is you guys are mentioning Piper Gold, coming up with this big marketing strategy, this, that, and other. Maybe we work to create that strategy that we can implement now, that's going to help get us through these times, these difficult, unknown times. But on the other side of it, we can still use the infrastructure in place, whether it's website, apps, whatever that infrastructure is. We can continue to use it, so it's just not gone after the COVID crisis, right? And so I would encourage the group to really brainstorm what that looks like. I know for me, an enhanced website where Amy and I and the rest of the team, we're collecting data from business owners right now on the things that you're mentioning. When are you open? What changes to your operations have you made since COVID? How do I take me step by step on your curbside pickup program? Things like that, because that information is vital, as you alluded to earlier. Telling that consumer, that customer, the how and the why during these times is very important. So what I'm saying is, I hear all your concerns. I agree with a lot of them, but we need to come up with a strategy to spend this money, because it is needed, to keep people safe and to keep them coming downtown.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're going to go with Piper and Gold, their campaign needs to work hand in hand with this stay safe, stay open. We've pushed that message. We as our committee need to push, this is what the downtown businesses offer. This is how you can get it. This is how you can get down here and get it, whether it's curbside or if you need to park for 15 minutes or what needs to happen. It needs to be focused on, these are the businesses that are still here. You need to come help them. This is how you need to get down here and get them. That more than, the understand the mask thing. And, at this point, the mask has been driven home. We get it. You have to wear a mask. We need to get people down here to get to these businesses and, say, okay, whether you're curbside, whether you're only to go, whether it's open. Half the time my wife and I are like, hey, we should go down there and get food. Are they even open? Do they have to go? Can we walk down? And it's like, all right, and then we turn around and we end up at Eastwood Town Center. And it's like, so I don't know if there's a central, database, if you will, that we can say, hey, here's what's open, here's how we're going, this, and, we've looked at the Spotlight, a business or whatever, but just fire out to people, they're open, they'll pick up, they'll bring it to you, or you got to pick it up or whatever. I think that's the message that if we have a marketing committee do it, they need to drive home
Right.
Not so much that, hey, we're safe. I mean, obviously we want people to know that we're safe down here,
Right.
but this is what, in the safety of our downtown community, this is what we are doing.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so next steps, we have to, I'm assuming if we want to move this and move it quickly, we need to set up some kind of special meeting then, is what you're saying, Amy?
I think if you guys are comfortable unfreezing the funds, if you will, then yes, we would need to set up a special meeting. I think it might make sense for Adam and I to go back to the table. I think what we want to do is twofold. We want to obviously vote on exactly what we're going to tell the DDA we're going to spend the funds on, and then obviously we'll need sort of the blessing of the DDA as well. Since right now, you know, this is what's been approved, or at least a heads up to the DDA. Wouldn't you agree, Adam, that would be
Yeah, definitely.
appropriate?
Definitely need the DDA's blessing.
So certainly before the next meeting, whether it's a special board meeting or the one in September, I'm happy to call Piper and Gold, you know, see what, ensure that that's still sort of their minimum, if you will, for projects, you know, see about their capacity. Hopefully they're willing to continue to work with us and kind of take it from there. If that makes sense for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I don't want to speak for the committee. I get titles and all that, but I'm not one to speak for people. So I would move to unrestrict the funds. But I do think that a special meeting should be called in order to discuss, you know, which items we'd like to move forward with and which items we'd like to reallocate funds towards a marketing campaign that more suits marketing downtown merchants and access to them. That's how I guess I would want to move forward, because what I don't want to do is have these funds restricted for the next, I think we need to call some kind of special meeting to discuss what we want to do, move forward, so that we can try and get the most unrestricted to a degree in order to move it along. Otherwise, we're going to wait until the next meeting. We're still going to be stuck in the same boat. We can't leave them restricted forever. And I think that there are some good items here that we can move forward with. And there's probably available funds throughout this to be able to, achieve all of the things we've talked about in this meeting. And so I think we'd be supportive of that. So does everyone, I move this to a special meeting and this, in order to discuss unrestricting the funds.
Okay. All right. I will take a roll call vote then. Is there a second? I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
I'll take a roll call vote. So Hewson,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Kroom.
Yes.
I believe that is everyone left on the line.
So we have an executive committee meeting for the DDA Thursday at 11:30. So maybe this could be part of that. It should be raised there, and we should have what the DDA did at its last meeting in writing in front of the executive committee, and then have this proposal, at least advise them of this proposal. Adam, you'll be there to unrestrict the funds, and that that we've followed up, and it sort of looks like the direction we're going in is to do this for more marketing, use the money for more marketing type things, and really get the DDA to just unrestrict the money. So that'd be a good place to start. And then the DDA meeting will follow the following week.
So if I'm understanding the dates correctly, does that mean we need a special meeting tomorrow in order to have that meeting on Thursday? Is that what you're looking for? Because if we're going to unrestrict it, you said, Amy, we have to have the full board approve unrestricting, unfreezing based on our recommendation as a committee, and then take that to the DDA, and the DDA meeting's next week. So Jim, are you saying that you guys will meet on Thursday, just discuss this as an open topic, but not make any determinations? They won't be able to unfreeze it, but then we would need a meeting before next week's DDA meeting in order to actually have that actively unfrozen.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So let me be clear. It was the DMB that froze the funds, not the DDA. So you guys at your last board meeting. So I think would be appropriate is if, for example, we maybe tried to have a special DMB. So I think Jim's point is perhaps giving them a heads up, because they're having like a subcommittee meeting on Thursday, so not a full board. So maybe give them a heads up that, hey, this happened at the last DMB meeting. Since then, the subcommittee met. you know, this is their new tactic and strategy. Wanted to give you a heads up that probably, you know, we're going to have a new recommendation on funding at the meeting on, I think it would be the 27th. And then hopefully in the interim, I would convene a special board meeting to occur potentially Tuesday, since we usually do meetings. So perhaps the DMB board would say, okay, unfreeze the fund, or request that, you know, we want to unfreeze the fund. We request it to the DDA that the money be spent this way. And we're willing to unfreeze the fund. Does that make sense? And DDA pulls the trigger and says fine on the 27th. That was a lot.
Okay.
Does everybody follow that? So I think we would try to maybe have a board meeting
On the 25th.
Tuesday, give it to the DDA the Thursday.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
and we tell the DDA it's just unwieldy to have these restricted categories. This is a fast-moving sort of situation with COVID and coming out of COVID, if we are coming out, and we just need more flexibility. Appreciate their support. We just need the room to
And
move
maybe we just
without,
kind of keep it open-ended, like Jim had said, you know, just say we're just going to spend money on marketing. You know what I mean? Keep it to less line items, I guess.
yeah.
Like that, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right,
that's
all.
fine.
Okay. Well, I will work on, Adam and I will continue to touch base and work on some items, and we will, you will hear back from me about a special board meeting then.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Oh, I appreciate you walking us through it, Adam. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll talk to you guys soon.
You too.
All right.
All right. And then do I call adjournment there, Amy?
Sure, that would be great.
All right. Is there anything else comment-wise that the rest of the committee wants to bring up, or is everyone done for the day?
Yeah, I guess just on the parking situation, and Ray had mentioned this, and I had,
Mhm.
if the city council went back to 15, does the marketing committee, in terms of, do we want to put, at least have the merchants through the DMB take the position that we want that loosened back to 30? And then city council can just reject it, but at least they've got our communication that on behalf of businesses, or what should we do with that?
I think that makes sense. I mean, to be honest, as a you know, someone who does go downtown to get food, you know, the wait can be extended because of the fact that they're doing so many online orders. They're pivoting to that. So, I mean, I can see how that would be needed. And if you're waiting in line and, you know, you're distanced and it takes a minute to find help, you know, I think it makes sense to extend it out a little bit, or at least request it. So it'd be, if most of the businesses are of that opinion, I think it's worth putting a note to them to ask. It'd be a pretty reasonable change, since there's not a lot of permanent parking people going downtown to like stay downtown for long. Most people are temporary parking right now. I think that makes sense.
I would agree.
Is that a movement we have to make, or is that just something we want to discuss with the board?
I was going to say, I think that if everybody's in agreement, what I could do is I could draft a correspondence on behalf of the board. And then if we call a special board meeting on Tuesday, that could be approved and then shared with city council, if that.
Yeah. Yeah, see what the rest of the board members say.
Board weigh in, yeah. But then if there's a majority in support, then we can just issue that straight to city council.
And we would have to say that as a public policy matter, we believe
Right.
that based on COVID and so on, that downtown and the downtown merchants and the vibrancy are a vital part of the entire East Lansing community. And that therefore, and you wouldn't phrase it this way, I'm always too direct, but therefore all of the citizens of East Lansing, meaning the council budget, the general funds ought to support this. And how do you do that? I know you're trying to make money on parking, but we think it comes through loosening up the parking standards. And it helps all of the citizens in the entire community.
Got it.
And they can just reject that because they're, if they want, but we're a strong constituency and we'd ought to have our voice heard.
And I think it does help with when we market. It's going to help with marketing. So, when Piper and Gold asks us, well, how do you want us to spin people going downtown and getting their food? We can say you won't pay for your time to go down there and grab it. So
Right.
I think that's they're not going to pay to go to Okemos, right? So I think that's fair enough.
And at least it's short term to help us get through it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
doesn't have to be long term. City council's got to realize this is short term, and I think they do.
Right.
Cool. All right. Anything else discussion wise? All right. Well, I move to adjourn.
Support.
I can make 75 for you.
All right.
I think Ray's working.
I think
Yeah.
he is too.
Yep,
It's
done.
good. He's got a customer.
Thanks,
job, Ray.
thanks, Justin and Amy. Thanks, you guys, for a good meeting.
You're
Go ahead.
welcome.
Yes, I
We're all
approve.
set. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. And
Thanks, everyone.
we'll be in touch soon about another meeting.
And glad to see you back, staying on, Corey.
Yeah,
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you for moving over.
Hey, no, I appreciate you being on. Cool. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks all. Have a
Yeah.
great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.